Hello, I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need, tips and tricks to get you moving forward in real estate investing. I am your host, Christina Suter, and today we, of course, have a great guest, because I wouldn't invite anybody to my show that I didn't think was a great guest. I am completely biased. I am completely preferential. I choose my guests on my show because I really believe that my guests should be offering you something specific. They either bring you a section of the market that I feel like people don't understand or they have not run into, or I feel like they're a human being that I sincerely can suggest and support that you do business with, because I know them through my own world. I know them through my own meetings. I know them through my own investing, and I invite them to be a part of this show for that reason. So David Coe is one of those people. He is a Phoebe meeting runner. I have seen him treat people incredibly well. I know his level of integrity and character. I do not hesitate to ever recommend him to people. So let me tell you a little bit about his bio, and he can tell you a little bit about what he's up to. All right, so David Coe is a realtor and investor who specializes in working with developers. David runs the COE, that's COE as in Co, as in his last name, the COE Co Real Estate Group, which is based in the South Bay of Los Angeles. Besides being one of the top Keller Williams teams for residential sales in the South Bay, Co Real Estate also has a new construction division that specializes in selling infill residential properties in the greater Los Angeles area. As an investor, David is a partner in the Capital Stack Investments. Capital Stack is focused on raising capital and investing in short and long-term residential new construction projects. David also founded the South Bay chapter of For Investors by Investors, that's the Phoebe brand, a real estate investment club that is 100% focused on education and networking with absolutely zero sales pitches allowed. And I didn't know you were a darn good cook. Okay, yeah. That one's new. I actually didn't know that. So you have 14 years of real estate investing experience. You flipped over 20 plus homes in Los Angeles and other markets. You've partnered in 37 single family homes in LA. You own single family home and condo rentals. So you are an investor yourself, as well as working with developers and investors in creating the capital stack. Co-manages multiple private funds that invest in real estate debt and equity. That's going to be our focus today. And you've raised 10 million plus in private money for real estate investments, invests and advises on real estate investing through self-directed retirement accounts. I know that I've called you for that myself. Investment committee chair for 2 different nonprofit organizations. So David, thank you so much for giving of your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun to do these things, and when it's with a friend, it's more fun.
It is. It's more fun, actually. I really enjoy it when it's with somebody that is, I know, and I can personally recommend. I've spent some time with, I've been able to watch you over the years. You've been able to watch me over the years. We're part of the same community, and we know that how each other works and the basis on which that we try to support our clients, our investors, our students, our club members, and we know where we're coming from. So it's super cool. Okay, now here's the thing. Explain what you mean by development and capital stack and what the co-company does, co-real estate does.
All right, so it's actually co-real estate is more the brokerage side of me, right? Which I kind of call that my day job, right? So I have a residential team, and we just happen to specialize in new construction because of my involvement in these development projects. But on the capital stack side, which I like to call my other day job, right? Because that's how the world really is.
Right, yes.
Yeah, we like to do is we like to partner with proven partners, right? So people out there that are doing infill construction development here in Southern California, you know, because we're so dense, we don't have a lot of these really big companies that will come out and develop hundreds of homes at a time, at least not in the, you know, the urban core. Really what that looks like is infill construction where people are knocking down, you know, 4 or 5 dilapidated houses and building, you know, new residences or new multifamily. And those are the kinds of people that we'd like to partner with. Generally, those kinds of people don't have a lot of established capital relationships. They're not doing any kind of institutional funding. It's more private funding. So what Capital Stack, what we'll do is, you know, we will help to create different kinds of syndications and funds that they can use to grow their business and continue to create housing. And then, you know, we'll help with the capital raising. We will help with the structuring of the entity. We also get involved in just being another set of eyes and brains on problems that happen in development, right? Development is the most complicated form of real estate investing. It has all kinds of just twists and nuances. At the same time, it's also where you can create the most value, right? So you talk about value add. Development is the ultimate value add strategy. And that's really where we like to focus.
So give an example, because this is smaller. So like you said, it's not like, oh gosh, KB Homes. They come in, they do literally 100 lots. They build 100 homes with 5 floor plans, right? And that is, like you said, is not what happens in the infill of LA pretty much anywhere, because there isn't that much land available. So infill specifically is, oh, we're filling in where stuff already exists. So what kind of development are you really talking about? Are you talking about 1 unit? You're talking about 4 units? You're talking about 8 units? I know you've got a couple of them going, so you have some good examples.
Yeah, so I'll give the 2 best examples. We have 2. One of them is a 27 home small lot subdivision in North Hollywood. Right, so those 27 lots started off as 5 separate lots, right? And the developer took all those lots, those 5 lots, and subdivided them into 27 lots. So small lot subdivision is also called a 0 lot line, which means they're single family homes that are built that far apart from each other. And I'm not joking, they're literally that far apart from each other.
Okay.
So we're selling 1,800 square foot homes on 1,100 square foot parcels of land in North Hollywood.
Wow. Okay.
And if you're really curious about it, you can go to outline@noho.com and you can see what a small lot subdivision looks like.
And that's amazing that you can get that kind of density, but Los Angeles needs the density. New York needs the density. I mean, there are several cities that need it, but LA is one of those where we actually need the density more city center.
Yeah, and actually the city of LA in particular looks at these as medium density, right? So because they're single family homes, they're actually bigger units. And if you were to build an apartment building, you could probably even add more density on a lot of the parcels that we're building on. But, you know, part of this that we like doing is we do believe that the ultimate way to solve LA's housing crisis is just to build more housing, right? So there is something about creating home ownership, which, you know, me as a realtor and, you know, and a citizen of Los Angeles, I certainly find a lot of value in that. So it's added density than what it was, but it's not as dense as you could make it. And it also provides home ownership versus home rentership in a community.
Right, that's where I was going was, you know, like you said, you can do an apartment, which would allow for more units, but doesn't allow for ownership, right? You can also do condos, but again, maybe not as good for families, right? People who want to live city center, but who have children, right? 2, 3, 4 children, and they really want a sense of a home ownership and a sense of control over their own space.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So, and it's not that we don't do apartments. This particular project is a small lot subdivision. We're actually in the process right now of helping to put together a mixed-use building in Gardena, which will have some residential rentals as well as some commercial space on the first level. So, you know, I started off as an investor fixing and flipping houses. I've always had a passion for tearing stuff down and making it prettier, and now I'm on a different scale.
Yeah, and it is good. I mean, it's a natural transition, I think, for you, because you have been in the South Bay for so long as a real estate agent. You've seen the density issues. You've understood the single family market. You've watched it continue to grow and continue to increase in prices, and therefore have the problem of this infill. How are we going to get more people in there? It always seemed ideal to me when you transitioned over from being a real estate agent to being a developer, because you were so very intimate with that side, not the development, not the physical, how do I hammer a nail into a wall, but that side of the city and what does it need and what's the growth and what are the opportunities and who are the buyers and who are the people who want to live in this side of town, what are they looking for? And how do we get them what they need while working with the city and working with the capital stack so that it's profitable?
Which is why it's the most complicated form of real estate investment there is, right? It's everything. You name one thing about any kind of real estate investment and development has some aspect of that in it. So you've got to be smart. You've got to be creative. You've got to be very charming with the neighbors. You've got to be patient. You've got to be aggressive. Like it takes every skill that you have to pull off a successful development. And, you know, like everything in real estate, right? There's no I in real estate. It just takes a team, right? And that's part of what we end up doing is helping to partner with these developers that are more involved in the day-to-day construction of the project. We focus more, I guess, on the business or investing side of the project.
So what would you say are some of the more common mistakes you see, and why a team like yours is necessary? Like a contractor would go, hey, I can build a 27 unit. I don't have a problem with that. I can't finance it, and I'm not sure I can get the city to clear it all, but I can build it. I can get my crew there and I can build it. What are the mistakes that you see that would happen on your side, and how do you avoid some of those? Just give me 3 or 4 examples.
All right, so I'll say that the first part is I think the first problem is people way underestimate the planning process. And, like from development, like I think everyone's heard that story before of the 3-year project that took 3 years just to get your plans.
Yeah.
Getting plans, especially in the city of LA, and a lot of Southern California cities is really, really difficult, right? So one of the first things that we like to do is we prefer to get involved in projects that already have plans,
Okay.
right? So that will take a huge chunk of risk off the table. Now it probably reduces a little bit of the return as well, but for us, it's worth that. Not that it's not risky building something, right? That has its own whole nother set of risks, but the entitlement phase is super complicated. It's arbitrary, and it just takes a long time. And if you get one neighbor or one group that has a problem with whatever you're doing, they can literally stall things out for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's the first thing, right? And that's one of the ways that we've overcome it is we just want to focus on things that are RTI, ready to issue, which means everything's been approved. They just haven't got the final permit yet because they have to pay the fee. And that's usually where we'll come in. That fee will be part of the capital stack that's needed to make that investment go. So that's usually where we'll step in.
Okay.
I'll say the second thing is time. Time is the most critical factor in any of these development projects, right? The most expensive line item that you'll have in a project is the construction cost, the cost of the money. Generally these are done with, hard money kinds of loans with hard money kind of rates. And I'd say that we've learned over the time is making a decision to save a penny now that could cost you $1 in interest later is something that is super important, right? So we always are kind of advising our partners, like, don't be penny wise and pound foolish, right? The name of the game is to get it done as quick as possible, right? And that's one of the things that, we've been really focused on whenever we're looking at a deal is making sure we kind of understand what their plans are and are their plans built on building it quickly and not building it cheaply.
Right? Go for it. You're going to go ahead. Go ahead. I see you. The
And
third one's already in your brain. You're ready. Go.
I did have a third. You looked like you had a question though, so I was going to stop.
I did. Okay. If you can bookmark the third, don't lose it. That would be great. Mike, because one of the things I've noticed, even on flip projects, and I'm sure you notice this on development projects, which is right along that line, is this whole concept of, time really is distinctly money. Right? So on like one of my flip projects, it'll cost $17,000 a month to hold the project up. I don't know about anybody else, but it seems like a pain in the patootie to me, right? That's a lot of money to hold up a project. And one of the things that I find is the efficiency, like you talked about, like, no, we don't really want to spend a lot of time deciding on a design decision or deciding on the exact placement of the pool or deciding on, whether or not we're going to make the garage 20 feet or 22 feet, right? We really want to spend our time building. We want those decisions done. Right. And one of the things that I've noticed, and maybe this is more in the flip world, but maybe it's also in the development world, is that the managing of that efficiency of time requires time, your time. It requires the time of a decision maker to ride each decision so that the decisions are made effectively and efficiently. Now, development might be different, I've been told, because so many of the decisions are made before you even get to the breaking down of the first wall or pouring the foundation.
There are 3 times as many more decisions that happen day to day. Construction is a very malleable process, right? Like when you really start building things, things move, things aren't always even, right? Like one of the things that the finished product of a new construction is probably way different than the original plans, right? Because there's a human element to construction that happens as well. So yeah, you're constantly having to make decisions. And I think being effective, being efficient, and making sure that you're not making decisions that could potentially go back and unravel some other decisions that you've made in the past. You want to keep moving forward and not, the one step back, two step forwards in development is a killer.
Yeah. And so in that way, do you then have a single project manager, or do you have lots of team meetings so that you don't have that on the ground decision? I'm sorry, I got a phone call today in the middle of my lunch that had to do with this subject. So forgive me if I'm a little hot on it right now, but do you, like literally, I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, I'm walking out of my lunch conversation, which was, with friends to have this conversation. So, so how do you manage it? Because I think this is part of what occurs to me is that, people, the concept of development, I try to get to like the nitty gritty, the truth and the tips and tricks of what really happens in real estate is that you get these ready to go plans, you purchase in, which is great. You know that a time needs to be efficient, but then when you're in the middle of that project, that's when the rubber meets the road. And that's where projects, I think, that's where at least my projects are most likely to fail. Is in that day-to-day where the rubber meets the road. So therefore, being capable of committing, efficiently handling it, being the person that has to show up, like what is it that you feel like is sort of your trick, your rule of thumb that you use to make sure that this stuff just doesn't run off the rails?
Yeah, so it is having someone who's in charge every single day, right? Like having a project manager is key. Now we don't do that, right? Like that's where we're evaluating our partner that we're bringing in because they're more responsible on the day-to-day of making decisions. But our responsibility, and again, some of these are a little bit different. When our team is selling it, we are way connected to the day-to-day as well. But even if we're not, if I'm not acting as a broker, just as an investor, that is something that we want to make sure is that there is someone responsible on a day-to-day basis. And then we check in on a regular basis as well. Right? When we're kind of more on the fund size, we don't have to get as concerned about how the pennies are being spent. It's more about, checking in and making sure the dollars are being spent on time and efficiently. So we kind of operate more on that level from what we're doing. But if someone were developing on their own, doing a fix and flip, and this is the biggest thing I always like to tell people about fixing and flipping and out of state, you better have someone that you are really, really comfortable with who's going to be at that job site at least 3 or 4 times a week. If you don't have that person, it's just going to be a disaster because it's just human nature. If no one's there, things either happen sloppily, they don't happen at all, or they happen incorrectly. And, once you get down a certain path, it's hard to go back and unravel certain things.
It is. And I think that's a good description. And thank you for letting me interject right there, because to me, that's where I think good projects can go wrong, right? You set them up right. You can set them up wrong. Let's assume you set them up right. But then in the implementation process and in that stream is where a good project can go off the rails, whether it's a purchasing, that's getting the plans in place and how long that takes, which was your first point. But then once you've got a hold of it and it's your responsibility, there's an efficiency built into the construction project, but there's also ensuring that efficiency occurs on a daily basis. So I'm just kind of fine tuning and re-describing what you've described so far.
Yeah.
Your points.
Yeah,
okay.
You need to be good at tracking things, for
you need to be
sure.
good at tracking things. And you need to make it a priority. Huh?
And honestly, one of my best moments in real estate of all time came from Christina Suter, right? The whole idea of you have to manage your property managers was a concept that I first got from you. And I've carried that with me, since we've met 10 years ago. And you have to be paying attention. Even if you're not working, you have to be paying attention.
Yeah. If you're not paying attention, then it's going to be exactly what you described. They're either not going to be there, they're going to do it incorrectly, or they're going to do it sloppily because you're not there. And I don't think I've ever mentioned where that came from, but it's a personal experience of mine and totally, completely off of real estate, but I'll share it anyways, and then you can do point 3. Where I learned that was when I was a teacher. It wasn't, and you would think it would be me watching my kids. It was my boss watching me. I noticed how often I showed up late when my boss didn't care what time I was at work. And I kind of went, if this is as true of me as it is for the kids, right? Like, it's not just like kids do it, like I do it too. It's like, okay, if you don't pay attention, then you're allowing the space for things to go off the rails.
It's
But attention,
unfortunately, it's a very human trait.
it's a very human trait. Attention will often solve the problem. Just attention. It doesn't even have to be punitive attention. It doesn't have to be bad attention. It doesn't have to be, like, you don't have to push it forward. It doesn't have to even be aggressive. It's just attention to showing up and asking the questions will often keep the team on course. That's,
Yeah. Well, and I'll give you one little tip I like to give to my investors.
Yeah.
Then I'll give you the third thing, and that is accountability is key, right? If you don't have someone who's holding you accountable, it's really hard to get big things done in your world. Like, I have a business coach for my real estate business. I know you are a coach for all different kinds of things.
And I have a coach, and I have a coach for my own business plans too.
Of course, because you know how important having a coach is, right? Yeah. So I think accountability is key, and we'll try to be that in the construction project. But at the same time, we're mostly looking at partnering with people that are doing also what is the third most important thing is you got to build something that's kick-ass and cool, right? Like,
right.
While you need to be quick and you want to be efficient, right? Especially if it's something for resale, I think design matters, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, building something that's quality matters, especially in California, right? New construction out here, you have a 1-year kind of fit and finish warranty on everything, and you've got a 10-year liability policy. So, it's also making sure that, what you're doing is also something that's quality and make it look cool. Like, have a plan, have a design. Don't be cookie cutter.
Yeah, and I call it the HGTV effect, which is now not just in Los Angeles, but I've noticed it with my clients in multiple markets, which is if it don't look cool and if it don't look current, it ain't gonna sell very well. Even if it's like, I try to explain this to my husband who grew up in the 40s in the Midwest, and he's like, oh, it's a great house. And I'm like, yeah, it's structurally sound. Right? The plot lines work, right? The roof is still in good shape, but it's still not going to sell well because so many people are used to this sense of design and presence, right? And character that is involved in it's an expectation in almost every home, especially if it's new.
Well, don't take this the wrong way, but since you called your husband out with his 1940s sense of style, I'm going to call you out with your HGTV reference. Really, what the kids are saying these days, it's about the Instagram and the Pinterest, right? Okay. Like, these have to look cool on social media. Most of the stuff that we're involved with right now is more first-time home buyer, which tend to be more millennial people, and they care about how cool it looks, right? They want to move in, they want to post a photo, put it on their story, talk about how great it is, and then go and work at a coffee farm somewhere in Thailand or whatever kids are doing these days. So yeah, design's important and quality is important, and we like to partner with people that are doing cool projects.
Okay, and it is good. I mean, I think when you partner with people who are doing cool projects, one of the advantages you do get is a sense of, at least maybe it's in our network, at least in the people that I know, like you work with Brian, I think, and other people as well, but you get a sense of people who want to steward forward quality, right? It's not just cool, but it's actually something, like you said, you've got a 10-year liability on that having to do with construction in California. So you need to hit a certain level of quality and stability, sturdiness. I don't think that's a real word, but
durability certainly is.
Durability. Thank you very much. Durability. You're going to get a certain amount of durability in the project, and that's almost a requirement, no longer just a right thing to do. Right. It is also the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to transition for a little bit, if I may. So what I'd like to transition to is, so either you kind of, it's like, I want my listeners to understand real estate is a pain in the patootie. Oh, I was going to do a little, I call them educational segment today. It's like a 5-minute segment. And I started with real estate is a pain in the blah, blah, blah. And I went, no, maybe I shouldn't start my educational segment that way. But real estate is a pain in the blah, blah, blah. It is something that will rake you over the coals. It is something that will show up to be difficult. It is something that will disrupt your day, your week, your month, your year. Right? If you have a bad project, you can have a bad year. Right? And it's something that has a high level of challenge to it and a high level of accountability to it, right? So why be in real estate? Why, if you're a real estate agent, why transition to being a developer? Why be on that side that is so much more complicated and so much more involved?
Well, again, I started as a fix and flipper and got my license just because I wanted to sell my own projects. So I didn't get into real estate to be an agent. That's something that I got into, further in my real estate career. I love being an agent because I actually love the complexity that you just mentioned, right? And from the real estate agent side, brokerage side, putting a deal together, being creative, and obviously it's one of those things where the more complex kind of transactions you can stitch together, the bigger the commissions are, right? The bigger the checks are. So I enjoy that challenge, and that's one of the things that I love about real estate. From the development side, it's really like, it started off with, we like building cool stuff, right? Like when we started, it was my wife and I fixing and flipping houses, and we were tired of our corporate jobs, and we always fixed up our own house or houses. Okay. And we figured, we're good at this. We should do this, and we should do this for other people. So I've always had that in my blood, and then through my relationship with Phoebe, which I think we'll talk about here in a little bit, I've certainly expanded the things that I've gotten involved with, but, I look at development as being the natural evolution of where we started as I became a more sophisticated investor.
Okay. Okay. And so along that line, tell me one of your worst real estate stories, and what, did it help you learn, or did it, just make it worse?
Well, I'd say probably the one that's been the most impactful is when we were fixing and flipping, and this was in 2006 and 2007, right? Okay. So we learned at a great time in the sense of it was pretty easy to fix and flip back then, and then 2008 came around, and we didn't know about any of that. Right? Like we read a book. I still have the book on my bookshelf here about, how to fix and flip a home, right? Like we literally bought a series of books, because we're somewhat old school that way as well. And, that part we understood, but we didn't understand, recession. We didn't go hear Christina Suter speak at the State of the Economy and understand that. And
Christina Suter in 2006 was not speaking State of the Economy. Christina Suter learned State of the Economy when I missed the 2006. That's when I learned that.
It's when I learned it too, right? And I think you and I probably learned it from the same spot, right?
We did.
From that experience for me, probably the first thing that we learned from that is, now that we understand cycles better, we're a lot more aware of cycle timing, which means how you buy something, you have to be very aware of how you pro forma out that deal, if you kind of have a sense of where things are going in the future, right? So we've gotten a lot better at that. One of the biggest things for me, and that was a lesson that I didn't know back then, is when we couldn't sell that house we fixed and flipped, right? Because we kept getting bigger deal, right? Oh my, we're going to be flipping $20 million houses any minute now, right?
Right.
Well,
yep, I know that.
Renting an $800,000 house is a lot easier than having to rent a $2 million house. Yes, and the carrying costs on that project when we couldn't sell it were huge, right? So even now, I think as we're in the cycle, one of the first things we look at now is, look, if we can't sell this thing and we have to hold it and rent it, can we at least do that and break even and not lose money on the project every month?
Right.
So I would say that was a really big lesson we learned back then. And then honestly, I started creating information, and I went to Phoebe, and it's where, I met so many great people, including yourself, and learned so many great lessons. And, I'd say that failure forced me to go get this bit of information that I wish I would have gotten before I started all of this.
Right. So what it caused you to do, so the failure was, of course, 2008, which has been a failure for many of us who have been involved in investing for a while. And what it caused you to do is to learn to educate yourself?
It made me learn to educate, and it made me a much better underwriter.
Okay. Much stronger underwriter.
Stronger underwriter. Thank you.
No, much better is fine too. That's a perfectly good description. Like, what concepts we're talking about are so much more important than just getting the right word, in my thinking, because this is literally, for me, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, like $100,000, 2 million, 2 millions, anywhere from 100,000 to $2 million is the size project that I'm dealing with. And also this, you're dealing with a project, I think, even bigger than that, because I'm still just flipping houses. You're actually, we're dealing with, 27 units development, which is a bigger chunk. And so, getting the word right isn't important, getting the timeline right, getting the process right, getting the accountability, showing up and understanding what the potential downfalls are the place where you can steward a project forward successfully is because of the lessons you've learned, because you've seen the accountability, because you've noticed the time frames, because we've had the market fall out from underneath us, right? That's part of what makes us more diligent, more accountable, and maybe more serious. For me, it made me a better human being.
Well, and I think it's the best way to learn a lesson in real estate too, right? Like those are hard lessons, but they're great lessons. And for sure, it's okay to fail, right? I mean, real estate is the ultimate entrepreneurial business, which is one of the things that I love about it, right? Yes. And I've certainly taken my real estate career and have been very entrepreneurial over the last, 12, 13 years. Yeah. But, at the same time, you can't be afraid of failing. You have to have the confidence that you're going to fail forward, right? If I make a mistake, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to keep going. I think that's really important.
Fail forward faster.
Yeah, exactly right.
As long as you're, as long as you move forward past the next failure, you're always moving towards a success. It's when you stop. It's that moment where you go, well, for me, it's the moment where you decide. Am I going to decide this is a failure and I'm going to stop and I'm going to be okay living with that for the remainder of my life? Or am I going to choose to be accountable to my failure, clean it up, and move on to my next one because my next opportunity gives me a chance to make it straight, make it right, right? Yeah. Do it right, make it right, or fix what I've done.
Yeah, adjusting is key, right? And that's the thing, right? Just because you have a problem doesn't mean you bail out. You've got to adjust. And honestly, real estate investing is a constant series of adjustments, right? You're adjusting to market timing. You're adjusting to, if you're holding rentals, you've got tenants, right? Here's the number one rule of tenants. They're crazy and they're going to do crazy things, right? And they're going to cause you to adjust all the time, yes. Which is why you have to be paying attention. How can you make adjustments if you don't know what the hell is happening?
Exactly. Okay. So you are also an investor, as in you actually have your own investment properties. So you're not relying on just you're a real estate agent. Correct. You are a developer who helps to create capital stack and fund and do the business end of projects for contractors and other people who are looking to develop, but you also have your own investment properties.
I do, yeah. So I have a few rentals. I still have the first condo I ever bought as a rental property, and we'll hopefully hold that forever. Good. I really like the debt side of real estate.
Tell me.
So being on the debt side, especially when I've got a lot of responsibilities on the development side, the debt side can be pretty clean, a lot less responsibility. And then, I'm invested in, some of the other kinds of syndications that, that we have in common. And, I like syndications. I like the simplicity of them. You put a lot of time upfront into making the decision, but once you make the decision and write the check, you're pretty much done. Usually. So that part of this. Hopefully.
Right.
And honestly, one of the things that we want to do, part of what we're taking Capital Stack is we don't want to just do things for resale, right? Like we are actively out craving partners and some people that we're talking to that want to build things and hold it, right? Everyone talks about it. It's really hard to get a deal in Southern California. Well, not when you build it, right? Because when you're done, you're going to be actually way under market value with a brand new product, right? Okay. Versus having to take something and renovating it. So that's one of the things as we're pushing Capital Stack forward, it's not just about the resale. We want to use this as a way to help grow our portfolio as well.
So do you keep some of what you develop then, or in that you keep the debt side of it? Is that what you're saying?
It's more like we're going to be developing certain projects that are for a long-term hold. So some projects we'll develop will be for sale. Some that we'll develop will be for a long-term hold. We're just trying to mix the projects in the pipeline.
I'm going to ask what may sound like a silly question, but why develop a passive portfolio when you're getting such a great return from your daily life?
because I don't want to do all this work forever, Christina. This is, look at all
I
this
told
gray
you it
hair.
may sound like
We
an
just
obvious
talked about
question,
this.
but we did. We started the whole conversation with, I got gray hair right here, which I've never had before. And you're like, gray hair, like, lady, come on. Like, let's get
Right,
clear here about the gray
please,
hair, right? Please.
right.
Right. But I need to ask the question because I want my listeners to, I'm cultivating because I want my listeners to understand, like, there are amazing jobs in real estate, which are fun and fulfilling and exciting and dynamic and require you to be quick on your feet, and they're challenging and fulfilling. But there's also like, dude, I need a retirement portfolio. Like, I don't want to do this for forever,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
So you're doing that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're continuing to build up and growing our passive income. And at some point in time, we're going to be more time on a beach or in, drinking wine at a winery in Spain versus, digging in the dirt in North Hollywood.
So what are your goals on that? Do you have a goal on that? Like, when do you want to transition to that? Is there an age? Is there a time? Is there like, what's your goal for your freedom from being active, which is exciting and engaging, to, hey, you know what? I'm really ready to just chill and have not get so many gray hairs maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Or for me, it's so many wrinkles. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've got those too, but the gray hairs are a lot more visible. Yeah, no, I think for us, we are, we just turned 50, my wife and I, right? So we're still young, right? We feel like we still got a good, 5 to 7 year run in us to continue to do this. And when we're going to be 55, 57, even 60, it's funny how 60 just sounds so old. And now I've got great friends that are 60. I'm like, well, they're still young, right? But yeah, our plans within the next 10 years, we want to be able to have what we're building right now have a different role, right? Where I don't have the day-to-day responsibility and I have more of a, kind of a long distance financial report type of relationship with my businesses.
Yes.
And we can spend more time traveling.
Traveling. Okay. And are you getting towards that goal? Like, is that working for you?
Yeah, we're making great progress. And, we certainly, COVID hasn't been fun. It's certainly, adjusted a couple of plans, but it's an adjustment like everything in real estate, right? It's not a cause for failure. It's a cause for adjustment.
That's right.
We are actively on our plan, and, Capital Stack was a big part of that plan, right? Formalizing that relationship into something that could help us get to where we're going. For both Brian and I, which, Brian is someone that I met through Christina, who I met through Phoebe, right? Like he has become one of my, key partners, and it was through the networking through Phoebe, which is how he and I got connected.
So we've walked through the questions. So is there anything that you feel like that you need to share with people as sort of an overall basic, like, gee, if there's one thing that you need to know about real estate, what is that one thing that you just don't want to lose track of?
Well, I'll give you two things because I can't make up my mind on which one I want.
Then let's do both. Sounds great. Sounds good.
First of all, real estate is not a property business. It's a people business, right? It's all about the people that you're dealing with. So you need to be dealing with good people. Great deals with bad people will be way worse than bad deals with great people. So that's super important. Is don't get so, you want to know what's at the root of the investment, the property, but the people are more important. So I'd say that's number one. And number two is time is the most important aspect of every real estate investment. Understanding time and understanding the way time can affect return, right? The time value of money is really, really important. And I think it's kind of like the blocking and tackling of real estate investing, right? Those are very basic fundamental concepts that you have to master and understand before you're going to start investing and spending your own capital.
And I don't even think I can, just hearing you say it, right? The time value of money, I'm like, that is so cliche. It sounds so flat to my ears because I've heard it for so many years. And yet the physical life, visceral experience of living through it that you do as a developer is that time truly costs you money in a development, in a flip, in most real estate investments, anything that is value add, time physically costs you money. So I could not echo that enough, the awareness of time and management of that.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got one more. I have a
Sure.
bonus.
Okay, a bonus point. Perfect. Give it to us.
Here's the other bonus point, right? Like I say the other most important part about investing is knowing thyself, right? You need to know what it is you're trying to accomplish in real estate, right? The stuff that we're doing for development may be really, really wrong for a lot of people and really, really right for other people, right? Not every deal is right for everybody. And the only way you can know that is having a really strong sense of what you're trying to accomplish when you're investing in real estate. So I think it's another really key point for everyone is have a real solid, be grounded in what you're trying to accomplish and evaluate deals through that lens, not on their own.
Yes. 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 You know, that's one of my beliefs. You're preaching to the choir over here, David.
I know it. Yes.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, they want to potentially use your company as a way of helping them develop a bigger project that they're maybe ready for, but not quite sure how to walk through. If they're looking to help fund one of your projects, if they're also looking for a very nice piece of real estate in the South Bay, which you still have, right? You can turn them over to a member of your team and help them find a nice home for them to live in. How do people get a hold of you? I know there's your Phoebe meeting, there's your website. Give us all your information, how people can get a hold of David Coe.
Wow, there's a lot because I'm a realtor and us realtors put our name on everything. But
Everything.
I'll give you the simplest way would just be to send me an email, which is david@coeregroup.com. So david@coeregroup.com. If you're, as a broker, we love working with investors. That's our specialty. Obviously, I'm one also. I get it, right? And chances are I'm probably doing more complicated things than you are. So I'd love to help you figure out what you're doing.
Right.
And if you're interested in investing in some of our projects, we'd love to, give you some more information on that as well. But that's probably the easiest way is to start with an email.
Okay, and how do they find out about your Phoebe meeting?
So if you go to meetup.com, and search for investors by investors. I actually run the group in the South Bay, which is in El Segundo. Not that it matters right now because they're all on Zoom.
That's right. We're all on Zoom.
It's such a great way right now we are, I think, you and I have talked about this. When COVID happened, we wondered how that would affect our real estate investment clubs. And I would certainly say we're not drawing quite as many people as we used to, but not by much, right?
Yeah,
we still have a pretty active community, and I think the information now is maybe even easier for people to get because you don't have to drive, you don't have to, shake hands with people you don't want to meet. But we're trying to create opportunity for networking still within our Zoom process. So go to meetup.com, and if you search for Phoebe, again, I'm the South Bay group. Christina is the Pasadena group and the multifamily group as well.
Thank you, David. This is supposed to be your time, but I appreciate you, throwing it to me as well.
Well, your group is my time, right? As one of the partners in Phoebe, we're strong believers in it and we're committed to it. And actually, that's the one last thing is I will talk about for Phoebe is we do have our investor conference for 2021. We just sent out the initial email about a week ago. So if you're really looking for a deep dive into some real serious real estate strategy from some really, really brilliant minds, even people more brilliant than Christina and I.
That's right, more brilliant than us, exactly. We bring them to the conference so we can hear them educate us and therefore educate all our members.
It's why I want a real estate investment club, right? Like that's how I learn, right? Because the best way to learn is to teach. So I learned that early on. But
I know you guys focus on that specifically at the Phoebe conference or the Intelligent Investor Conference. I don't know what the title is this year. I apologize, but we really do focus on bringing in bigger names in the field than just you and me and people who run clubs. So continue, talk about it. When is it going to be? How do people get there?
So it's going to be the third week in January, which I believe is the 18th through the 22nd.
Okay.
So go to Intelligent, actually it's IIREC2021.com.
IIREC.
Yeah, and I think you can put links on your podcast too, right?
Yeah.
I'll send you the link to make sure, but The ticket prices are fairly inexpensive for 3 days worth of serious content. And we're still really, really focused on the networking part of it as well. So we're doing different things with our sponsors, with our different attendees, where we're going to give a chance for people to still network and meet with each other, because the most important thing in real estate are the people, right? So you want to meet good people, and the only way you can meet good people is just by meeting people. So that's one of the things that we certainly want to encourage people to come and do. And I would say through Phoebe, we have a really good community of, I think, like-minded, super good people that are investors. Not everyone, but I think as a whole, it's a really special community. So yeah, I encourage everyone to come check us out.
I do too. Thank you, David. I so appreciate it. So thank you, my listeners, for listening to David Coe at Coe Real Estate Group. And I know that I keep sending them there, but where else should I send them? Coe Real Estate Group and
Capital Stack Investments.
Capital Stack Investments. That's the name I was looking for. Thank you. So
Yes.
David Coe with Coe Real Estate Group and Capital Stack Investments. And tune in next week for another speaker. And I so appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Breakthrough.